And then on to the question of whether I would give him the contract. Chuck, Mo Salah for me is a top 5 Premier League player of all time. It's so crazy that every season it feels like when we're discussing the legacy of Mo Salah, whether in the Premier League or in the context of the best African players we've ever seen, there's such a big debate, right? I think you can debate whether he's number one or not, but some of the debates that Mo Salah finds himself in are people questioning, is he really that good? Or is he overhyped? I get that aesthetically, he may not always be your cup of tea, but you cannot argue with the numbers. I was having a discussion recently about Robert Lewandowski getting to 100 goals in the Champions League, right? Being only the third player to do that behind Ronaldo and Messi. And I had to think to myself, Chuck, as someone who's always said that in the era being the Ronaldo Messi era, or the one that we come from, the 2010s, whatever the case may be, who is the number 3 guy, or more specifically, who is the best striker of the era? And the candidates are your Cavani's, Lewandowski's in there, Harry Kane maybe on the outside, and there's Suarez, right? And Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And I've always been a Suarez guy. And my reasons for that, I think overall as a footballer, he's better than a Robert Lewandowski if I'm comparing those two together. But then when you look at the numbers of Suarez, particularly in the Champions League, they're paltry, to be very honest. And I don't think Robert Lewandowski is as good a player as Luis Suarez, right? But there's a point where the numbers are such that it is hard to ignore them. This is the same thing with Mo Salah, that you might not get the same sensation when you're watching him as you did when you watched Eden Hazard, but the numbers are such that you cannot ignore them. So we are talking about an all-time African player, an all-time Premier League player, an all-time Liverpool player, which is where he's trying to get that contract. But he is 33. And if he's asking for 4 years, my position when it comes to contracts is you do not pay a guy for what he's done. You pay him for what you think he's going to do, for what you project that he's going to do. Mo Salah's best ability has been his availability. Consistently, season after season, he's given you 50 plus games, and consistently he's given you the numbers. And we've seen that in this era of football we find ourselves in, that guys are able to play deeper into their careers and still produce, right? I mentioned Robert Lewandowski. He is scoring over a goal a game in this season for Barcelona, and he's 36, going on 37 next year. So you look at that and you think to yourself, is Mo Salah going to be in that bracket? Then you give him the 4 years. But that's hard to predict, And as I'm saying, I know he's been available. I know he's been an Iron Man. And if maybe there is a player who can justify giving him a 4-year contract, paying him more than what he gets, if it is a money matter, we've heard as well, it might be a rights issue matter as well. It is Mo Salah, but I'm nervous about giving guys in their mid 30s long-term contracts. I understood why Real Madrid parted ways with Ronaldo as well. When they did, and he went to Juventus. Anyway, he proved at Juventus that maybe you could have stuck with him a little longer. But I'm on the fence about it, Chuck. I'm on the fence about it. I'd lean towards giving it to him because, again, it is Mo Salah. But I get why. I get why they're not keen to just throw 3 or 4 years at a player who's 33.
I mean, I don't get why they're in that position, because you speak about Ronaldo as an example, right? I think at this point, and because it's a 1-year contract extension, they're in a safer spot. That is Real Madrid. Luka Modric is not quite the player that he was last year, right? Age has caught up a lot, and you see that in the Champions League games where you're like, I think he should be starting from the bench because he's not quite that player anymore. But when we speak about Mo Salah, Jay, one, let's put this in context. Liverpool haven't given a contract, rather they've not presented the desired contract, not to Trent, not to Van Dijk, not to Mo Salah. And so they're potentially on the verge of a collapse because Salah's been their most prolific and the biggest star by far. Van Dijk is the guy who solidified everything at the back along with Alisson. Trent is their future star and it's so versatile. You're thinking to yourself, if you lose all these players in one go, I don't know which coach will be able to then keep that machine running as smoothly as it is right now. So when I think about Mo Salah, Jay, one, I want to address, because Carragher said that's a selfish thing to always speak about you and your contract in the midst of this great season thus far, because they're top of the Champions League table, top of the English Premier League as well, and you're like, how's about you put Mo Salah on the back burner and put Liverpool forward? And I'm like, no, not at this point. I think this is a critical juncture for Mo Salah because when he was 27, when he was 25, he knew that the contract is coming because his performances are there. But at this point in time, it's a numbers game. Yes, you're giving us output, but you're also old, and so I think it's a critical time for him to make the right decision in terms of if I stay, I want to get what's my money's worth. If I leave, I want to go knowing that my value stays intact, and I go to a place where people would value or appreciate me. So I think number one, I don't have an issue with the comments. I think he's letting them know that you're about to make a big mistake because I do think that Salah does fall in the ilk of Abo Ronaldo, Abo what am I thinking about? The James Milners of this era, whereas they take care of their bodies. You saw him the one time when he scored and he took off his t-shirt and dropped his pants a bit so you can see his abs because he's always meticulously taking care of his body. And I think the output is still there. He's still beating people like Robertson and Trent. And you're like, this guy's still doing it till this day. And you wonder to yourself, yes, when the speed does go away and the pace and acceleration goes away, what does he look like? He's still got a pass.
That's the question, right?
Cody Gakpo benefited from the pass.
That's the question, Chuck. So who is he when the physical traits begin to wane a lot more than what we've seen? Because if I were to take a sample of some of the players who have continued to perform well in their latter years, Robert Lewandowski, I mentioned, go back to him. He's a fox in the box, right? He's good in the box. Cristiano Ronaldo transformed himself to be a fox in the box. When he got older and Father Time started to catch up to him, he wasn't bombing down that left wing and cutting in and wanting to take those shots. The physical phenom that he was in his absolute prime, he adjusted his game towards being the player that he is. Even Lionel Messi doesn't slalom past guys anymore. He doesn't have that burst. He's not dribbling past the half of a team. And he already had within his locker the creative midfielder, right? So he can play a little deeper and he can be someone who's more tasked with creating goals and passing than being somebody who is, well, we need you up front to make runs and to dribble past people to score goals, right? You say Mo Salah has the pass. I do think he has developed into quite a sublime creative playmaker, but he plays on the wing still. And this has been a big debate throughout his career. Is he really a winger? He is a winger. You know, you do see him hug the touchline. And you see him make most of his play coming in from there, and he's mixing it up with those defenders. And I mentioned that specifically because the other person I want to throw into the mix is Harry Kane. You look at the way Harry Kane plays, and maybe this is why he was benched against Greece recently in the internationals. Harry Kane doesn't want to mix it up with the centre backs anymore. He doesn't want to have that fight. He doesn't want to be there. And so what he's doing is he's dropping deeper and deeper and deeper so that he can collect the ball and play passes from there. He's not really a playmaker. Harry Kane is not going to be a midfielder. The same way that Rooney was very versatile, maybe the most complete player we've seen, but he wasn't actually a midfielder, right? He has traits of that and he can fit in there. And this is the question with Mo Salah, that when I'm looking at him, I know he's a playmaker, but can he be somebody who plays as a midfielder when he doesn't have that burst anymore? Or can he translate into someone who is a fox in the box? I don't know. You know, I haven't seen that evolution happen yet. Would I put it past him to be able to graduate to that? No, I wouldn't. Because once again, Mo Salah is absolutely one of the best players we've ever seen. And I think this is what the Liverpool board are trying to answer, right? In terms of, okay, we can pay him and we know who he's going to be now at 33 and maybe at 34. Is he going to be the same guy at 36? Who is he going to be at 37? And when you are stuck then with a contract which you cannot sell him at 37 to recoup that money, and you are paying him the kind of amounts that you're paying him still at 37 and he's not quite producing the same numbers, it is hard to justify. Legends should be taken care of. And Mo Salah is one of those guys. But and I'm just assessing from the side of the board, if I'm trying to make sense of why maybe they're dragging their feet in terms of negotiations. They are thinking about the fact that in the last 2 years, what is he going to look like?
That's foolishness. I don't know why they're dragging their feet, because he's clearly their best player. I understand
today, Chuck. But yes, is he going to be their best player in what year are we in 2027?
It doesn't matter if he's the best player at 2027.
It does when you're giving a guy money. It does matter. Like, who am I paying? What am I paying for?
But if you still want to continue, honest slots or not, whether you've got Cody Gakpo, whether you've got Curtis Jones, if you want to have the best next 2 years of your Liverpool ownership, you have to have Mo Salah there. You can't tell me that you're gonna pin your hopes on Darwin Núñez. I mean, Luis Diaz played up front. He barely got onto the ball, Jay. So what I'm saying is that Mo Salah facilitates everything that goes right about Liverpool, and you want to dilly-dally on a contract. For me, yes, it's a 4-year contract, but I guarantee you 2 of those years are still good. 2 of those years are still good, and the last
and maybe they want to give him 2 years.
Yeah?
So that's the thing. Maybe they do want to give him 2 years.
They give him 2 years, right? But the other 2 years, I guarantee he'll give you 10 goals. Ronaldo was finished and he got to United and scored 20 plus. Ronaldo was finished but went to Juve. Ronaldo's in Saudi, but he's still scoring goals in internationals. What I'm saying, right? And I liken those two because I think they're in peak physical condition. Yes, it's gonna take a toll the older they get, but at the rate that they're performing at now, I mean, if you speak about Messi tended to, and it's been happening for a while, to walk on the pitch and just read the game like, okay, now it needs me. But Mo Salah is active all the time. I think when you look at the numbers, I think that's the biggest factor. I don't think that Curtis Jones is running Mo Salah in a game. I just don't think that's the case. And when you look at the fact that when they hoof the ball up, who's first to get there? It's not Gakpo. It's not Luis Diaz. It's always Mo Salah. And that's how they play sometimes when they want to play on the break. Mo Salah's there. When you look at the guys who are creating passes or creating dangerous opportunities, it's Mo Salah. Your penalty taker, it's Mo Salah. So for me, guys, everything is resting on Mo Salah and you want to not give him what he wants? They had the same situation a couple of years ago. Do we give Mo Salah a contract extension? They gave him. It's borne fruit thus far. I know eventually it's going to go sour, but this is not the time. If you get 2 good years, Jay, would you sacrifice that versus not having him for that 4 years? You put milestones, put incentives.
You're asking me, would I do it?
Yeah. Well, do you understand the logic of the board?
I do.
With them delaying?
I really do. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, because when you make the argument that everything revolves around him, it does, right? There's no argument around that. And this is why, as an Arsenal fan, I'm thinking to myself, if, knock wood, anything were to happen to Mo Salah, that door is open. That door for the chase for the Premier League title is open, because without Mo Salah, I do think still they're absolutely different team, and he's the MVP so far this season. That is the best player in the league on form currently, and aggregated over the time that he has been in the league, he has been the best. Well, maybe him and Kevin De Bruyne, have been up there, which is why I say Mo Salah is a top 5 Premier League player of all time, in my opinion. Or there's an argument towards that. And right here, right now, today, they need him. Everything that is good about Liverpool, it tends to go through Mo Salah. And if they're going to go on to achieve the goals that are right there in front of them this season, they need Mo Salah. But the question that the board is answering is not about today. It's not even about next year. And that's why I'm saying that if the offer is 2 years, and maybe that's what they want to do, because they can see that in the next 2 years, this is who he's going to be. This is what he's going to give us. But in the 2 years after this, because you say like you guarantee he's going to give you 10 goals, the justification from the people who are crunching the numbers is that we cannot be paying premium for a player who at that point is not going to be premium. At some point, all of the greatest players of all time, it is not justifiable to pay them. There's a point that comes where it's not justifiable to pay this player. It does not matter what they've done in the history of their footballing careers. It can be Messi, it can be Ronaldo, it can be Maradona, it can be Louis Ronaldo, Cruyff, Beckenbauer, you name them. It does not matter who they are. There's a point where the line and the threshold has been crossed, and this is no longer the same player. Jay, what they're hinging their bets on is that if he's asking for a 4-year contract, by the way, we don't know that for certain, is that at that age, that's when it's going to be. And you have to imagine that line, and you have to then stand on that, well, yes, today and tomorrow he's going to be the same guy, but for the time frame that he's asking for, that is beyond our threshold. And I can understand why they'd want to hold out on paying, again, as I'm saying, a guy premium money when he's not giving you premium performances.
I absolutely don't understand why there's delays or there's a disagreement, because I mean, I don't know how much money Mo Salah is asking for, or where they put him as the best player.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we don't know actually.
I don't know, right? But what I will say, Jay, is that you made a good point in terms of we don't sign you for what you're doing now, we're signing you for what you're going to do in the future. But no one knows what the future holds. And if you were to try to take a guess, you look at consistency in terms of here's what I expect. You can only guess. You can only assume or make a kind of what's an educated guess. That would be
an educated guess.
Let's use that term, right? And if you look at Mo Salah's numbers, Mo Salah's consistency, Mo Salah's reliability versus say again, and I know you're talking about specifically premium money. I don't know what to expect from Curtis Jones. I don't know what to expect from Elias. I don't know what to expect from Trent. But what I do know from Mo Salah is that I'm going to get the output that I'm still getting at this point in time. Of all the players that you can give another contract to today, no one's performed as consistently as Mo Salah. Maybe you want to put up a Van Dijk or Alisson. Those are the only other names in the entire team. If you look at the span of 4 years, we can say these guys have been consistent. I know what to expect. First name on the team list. If it's not Alisson, it's Mo Salah. So for me, if you want to take a gamble with money, this guy is a good bet. Put money on black. The relay is going to go on black in most cases for this particular wheel because it's shown in the past that it leans towards the color black. So for me, you can give Van Dijk money and then tomorrow it's different. I don't know. But Van Dijk had a knee injury. I don't know what to expect as he gets older. There are players who haven't had much injuries, but based on the fact that they're not consistent. Like if Diaz wants another 2-year contract, I'd be more reluctant to give Diaz a 2-year contract or Darwin a 2-year contract versus 4-year contract for Mo Salah. I know you're speaking about premium money, but in terms of output and what I can rely on and what I'm seeing in terms of eye test, in terms of legacy, in terms of what the team is hinging on right now, I think the best bet is Mo Salah.